It is a great day to be alive, and I am so thankful for God, Jesus Christ, who lives in us. Today's video is titled The Silver Saga, New Dream About Silver. Before we get started, I'm not a financial advisor. Nothing that I'm sharing is financial advice. I'm simply sharing dreams, visions, and interpretations that I feel God has given me as it relates to crypto. Now, let's get into the video. So before I get into this silver dream, I want to talk about dinner. I want to give you guys a backstory leading up to this dream on December 23rd, 2025. My husband and I were preparing dinner, and we were talking about Hunt Brothers Pizza and how we were able to get as many toppings as we wanted on this pizza without any extra charge. And so we went into this whole spiel about why we think that was a thing. Why don't they charge extra for toppings? And so from there, we went on to watch a movie. And I think we watched this movie the same night we had this pizza. We were watching the movie titled Fantastic Four, First Steps. And as we saw the Silver Surfer come out in this movie, my husband immediately stopped the movie. He paused it. He said, no, this is not right. The Silver Surfer is a man. He has never been a woman. And so this reminded me of the Silver Surfer Fantastic Four back in 2007. When I saw that one, it was definitely a man. And so in this one, the Silver Surfer is a woman. And so I began to look up the actor who played this Silver Surfer. And her name is Julia Garner. Her birthday is February the 1st. More about that in a minute. Now for the silver dream. So on January the 4th, which was a Sunday, I woke up from this dream. And in this dream, I remember listening to a podcast. I was listening to a podcast, and the person being interviewed was talking about silver. He went on to say that silver was being manipulated state by state. As I'm listening, I find it kind of hard to hear because now I hear static, I hear noise in the background, and I'm turning my head trying really, really hard to hear what is being said on this podcast. What is he saying? And I noticed that while I'm listening to this podcast, I'm also moving on this table a whole bunch of white boxes, little tiny mini boxes, about 40 or 50 boxes. And I'm moving them with both of my hands, just manipulating them around on this table. And so as he's talking about silver being manipulated by state, I'm seeing myself manipulating these boxes on this table, moving them, sliding them around in various directions. And so finally, I heard the man say, as if he was giving a warning to those who were listening, he said, "It will happen Sunday." After waking up from this dream, I realized it was Sunday. Wasn't sure if that was significant of that particular day or a Sunday that is coming, but he specifically said it will happen on Sunday. In this dream, I knew that the man was speaking was Tommy Lee Jones. I had just recently heard news, although it was sad news, about Tommy Lee Jones' daughter who passed away. My thoughts and prayers go out to the Joneses family. I proceeded to look up Tommy Lee Jones to see when his birthday was. That's how God deals a lot with me as far as dates and timelines. And so his birthday is September the 15th. Now, I also looked into Tommy Lee Jones to see if he played in any movie that had anything to do with silver, and he did in 1977, specifically October 7th, 1977. He played in this movie that had to do with silver coins being stolen. When I saw the release date, October 7th, I automatically thought about Israel. I thought about October 17th. I thought about the key for October 17th, something that I shared in many different videos, and how this key for October 17th represents Israel. Again, October 7th, the date that movie was released, and yellow and red, and how that represents a crash or a collapse. These are things that you guys already know. And again, his birthday is September 15th. Again, more about that in a minute. So I went on to do more research as it relates to silver being manipulated state by state, and I didn't find anything at all relating to that. But what I did find, the only thing that I found as it relates to silver being manipulated had to do with what is called Silver Thursday. Silver Thursday. I had never heard of that. I don't think I've ever heard anybody talking about this. No YouTuber that I'm aware of. I'm quite sure maybe you guys have, but I've never heard of Silver Thursday before. And so here I am looking at Silver Thursday, and it starts with these three individuals, these three Hunt brothers. And what they wanted to do was to hedge themselves against inflation. This was back in 1970, which I don't think is a coincidence that that movie with Tommy Lee Jones and the silver coins was 1977. But this particular incident started back in 1970. Again, these three brothers wanted to hedge themselves against inflation. These three individuals were from a very wealthy family. An oil-backed family is where they got most of their fortune or their fortune from. And so they initially wanted to hedge themselves against inflation. And later on, they wanted to attempt to control the silver market. So they began to buy up massive amounts of silver. And when this happened, something else also took place, something called Silver Rule 7. And when this rule or regulation was implemented because of what they were doing, they were not able to meet their margin call. And so now they were facing an estimate total of $1.7 billion in losses. The highly leveraged Hunt family experienced a collapse, and this collapse is what is known as Silver Thursday. Silver Thursday, and that happened on March 27th, 1980. And this collapse once again happened all because of a new rule or regulation that was implemented called Silver Rule 7. This collapse takes us again back to October 7th, the release date of that movie. It takes us back to October 17th, takes us back to Yellow and Red, collapse. All these things are coming back full circle so far. Moving on that day, silver price plunged 50% in a single day. This collapse in silver and price also threatened the financial system. Those banks who had extended credit to the brothers during the time when they were collecting all of this silver, now they are also facing a dilemma. And to avert a broader financial panic, there were those banks who did extend a credit line to the Hunt's brothers, and they were able to clear their position. But overall, they lost a lot of money. And so as I'm doing my research on this and I'm thinking about the Hunt brothers, I begin to think about pizza, because we had just had Hunt brothers pizza. And so my thoughts were, I need to research and see if there's any type of relation or connection between the Hunt brothers pizza, this business, and also these three Hunt brothers and this Silver Thursday. And sure enough, these are all family. They're all family. So the Hunt Brothers Pizza and the Hunt Brothers Silver Thursday, they are all a part of the same family legacy. And so now I'm asking God the question, is there something similar to this Silver Thursday collapse? Is something similar coming, an event? And is it going to take place on Sunday, like the individual, or like Tommy Lee Jones said in the dream, it was going to take place on Sunday. So again, the market crash and collapse is a warning message that God has given me for this channel as it relates to the wealth transfer, warning and preparation. And so with that came timelines, dates, deriving dates, which is why I want to go back to September 15th. September 15th is a date, if you guys have watched my channel, it has been a date that has come up many, many times. It has to do with a person's birthday. One of my students, a dream about him and his mom, a dream that had to do with the crash, another dream with him and his mom that had to do with me going down on an elevator, also me going down on an escalator, and putting the crash dream together along with the elevator and the escalator dream. For me, that was representation of a market crash. Also, September 15th is the anniversary of the Lehman Brothers collapse. Again, God has his ways of making that connection between a crash date, and what's to come. And so you guys know that I shared this elevator escalator dream already. Getting back to September 15th, this was also a day as it relates to the Eiffel Tower. I've gone through all this before, but this is a slide from one of those videos when the S&P main hit 6670, and we were looking for the S&P 500 ETF to hit on September 15th, but instead it was the larger one. And then the smaller one came on September 22nd, which was the beginning of the fall season, or what I'm calling the crash season. And I talked about this long candle and how it relates to three separate events, and breaking that candle into three. The first event taking place on the day that the S&P 500 ETF hit 667, September 22nd. Again, that was the start of the fall season, or what I'm calling the start of the crash, meaning not one day, not 2 days, but this is going to be a season, which means over a course of a period of time. And these are the three crashes. Notably, I want to look at November top. That was a dream. November top, December bottom. And I stated that I felt that God was showing me, after some much more prayer, that God was showing me that the November top was going to be on 1110. After 1110, as it relates to Bitcoin, using that as a gauge, after November 10th, Bitcoin went down. It has not really recovered from its drop. So 1110 was indeed the top for Bitcoin in November. October 10th was one of those candle dates. I'm not going to go into that. But November top would be was the start of that third candle. Again, this Eiffel Tower dream and those three candles has to do with a season of crashing. And this brings us back to the Silver Surfer. Again, Julia Garner, her birthday is February the 1st. February the 1st should also be a familiar date. That is the day that I had one of two of my bear dreams. In that dream, I saw two bears. I'll represent a bear market or a crash. And so all of this is still tying together with the Eiffel Tower, with October 17th, with October 7th. The only difference now is that it's focusing on silver. And so again, I'm asking the question, God, are we looking for silver to collapse? And would what caused it to collapse have anything to do along the lines with what happened with the Hunt brothers? Is there someone trying to manipulate the silver market? Is there someone trying to collect all of the silver and take control of the silver market worldwide? And I will say, in recent news, I've heard something about Venezuela and silver. I heard something about China and silver. I have not done my research as far as the details behind all of that. But that is the question. Is there someone behind, someone acting just as these three Hunt brothers did, trying to manipulate the silver market? And is that why we see the price in silver skyrocketing? And so as a result, will we see a collapse in silver, which will also have an effect on the market. Therefore, all these things are tied together. September 15th, February the 1st, bear market. And so that's all that I have for this video. Until the next one, God bless.